You want to put that on?
Yeah.
And look, the handouts.
Managers, I will try and shout, I guess, so that people can hear it all. I just really, I want to take 15-20 minutes, talk about an opportunity for us. We're going to gauge if the managers would like me, with the help of Smith Partners, to move forward with Megan Doyle, who may be in the audience at home. So if you remember, in 2019, we were approached by a group of homeowners, a representative of the group of homeowners, of a culvert under a private driveway off of Dell Road, down in the lower Riley Valley. At that time, all still the same case, all 5 of the properties are outside of the watershed boundary. And we did not move forward with any projects at that time. Fast forward to last year, the Marshall Farms development came in, and they were going to, so this is Marshall Farms, right in this area here, and they were going to finish this road, Dell Road, from here down to the lower, down to Flying Cloud Road. And as part of that, they were going to repair the private drive, the culvert under the private drive here. Marshall Farms, the development fell through, they did not proceed with it, so they did not move forward with the down road. So, Engineer Soviak, myself, and Mr. Hartman met with Megan Doyle and her representative, because they wanted to know about the permitting process and what they would have to do to get through that. And as part of that conversation, I mentioned to them that portion of the creek there extends into where we did our previous Lower Riley project in 2017. And that if in the future they did not want that property, that we might entertain it. So Megan Doyle contacted me later that day and said, you know, basically, our serious, because we would entertain that. Now, what that would look like, I don't want to have a discussion tonight about what that would involve, what the terms would be, anything else. Really, what I want to know out of all of this is this something that the manager would like me to move forward with property owners and discussing what that would be. So the area we were talking about is outlined in the cyan color there. It is actually 2 parcels, and the private drive intersects at a 45-degree angle off of Dell Road. So one of the logistics would be the ownership of that private drive. So if you look, it's a it's a highly erodible area, very deeply incised. These are 2-foot contours that are on there. You're looking at about Scott, you probably looked at this a number of times, almost an 80-foot drop in there. From top to bottom over 200 feet. So it is an area, and then underlying this, you will see that we have the crash stores on it. So here we'll turn the contours off so you can see it a little bit better. The area that is within the property that extends from the private drive to Dell Road scores a 32 on the crash. We'll get to the crash scoring in a little bit. And then the area that is east of there scores a 40. And that extends all the way then to where we restored the creek in 2017. So this is just an overview of the area overall. So the area in green was the prior project. And if you look at property ownership, if we were to work with Doyle on the ownership of that property, Marshall Farms comes through. The area on the south where the creek runs through would be taken as an outlot, would be under city ownership. And then all of the area in blue is city ownership. So there would be one remaining private parcel that we would have to negotiate with to get access to it. So I think this is a very good opportunity to gain access to a portion of the creek that we've already identified as something we want to restore. I am, the scope of the project at this time, I would be looking at just doing that portion on the property, but other things to consider is the city has come in with, if they come in with the Bell Road project, their prior iteration really relied on the removal of a lot of trees in this area, put in stormwater BMP. So what engineer and Sylvia and I have been discussing is getting the water quality benefit by participating in the creek restoration. And so the water quality would be there, they'd be able to move the trees in that area. They'd still have made rate control. But I think that could be done through other means that would be less impactful to the natural area in that. So as a little refresher, our scoring looks at these four main areas, and we had the two tiers. Tier one was really looking at the geomorphology of the creek. Tier two was really looking at impact on human structures, in essence. And so this scored, again, remember this scored a 32. If you look at our chart, anything over 18, we identified as needing restoration. Anything over 20, 22 again as severe and should get more immediate attention. Like I said, this is already, so we're not coming up with, so yeah, there we go, I've got real interpretation. We're not creating a project that would not otherwise be here. I think it's just an opportunity that has presented itself to us that we should entertain.
Anything from us at all?
I'm sorry?
You want anything from us at all?
All I want from you tonight is to know if you would like for me to continue conversation with Doyle and move on from there or not. I'm not looking for any other decision as part of what the terms would look like, then we come back to that. We can go into closed session with Mr. Smith and talk about what that would actually look like.
So what is the downside of us doing this?
South side is there are two downsides. One is, do we want to own more property? How much property does the district want to own? And then two is, if we control conveyances, there does come a point where the PCA might say, well, look, you control a conveyance, you are now an municipal authority and you have to do that. So that would be something that we look at what the terms would be. I would want to work with David Doyle and the five property owners to talk about ownership and then maintenance, long-term maintenance of the culvert. It might be something where carve out the driveway remains in their ownership. We enter into the long-term agreement to maintain the culvert underneath. Gives us the opportunity to put in the culvert in a way that allows for fish passions, allows for wildlife paths, meets other like H&H, hydraulics, and hydrologic designers. So those are really the two big downsides. Do we want to be owning more property, and we want and the risk of being an MS4? And I can reach out to PCA and address the MS4 question.
And would this also involve us somehow maintaining this? So
Yeah.
that's another cost.
That would be the
would
long-term
be
plan
taking
would be for us to maintain the culvert, because we want to put it in.
And the cost of getting the property?
I'm not prepared to talk about that tonight. That would be something we want to go into closed session and talk about. But yes, that would be a consideration. But in conversations with her, not looking to make any profit.
And if we do nothing,
And if we do nothing,
yes,
then we miss the opportunity to restore this area. At least we delayed the opportunity. I shouldn't say we missed that.
so it would remain in private hands.
Yes, this portion would remain under private ownership.
So with the driveway, you can do another right of way?
There are a number of different ways. Yeah, you can look at a cross-access agreement. You can look at just replatting it and covering it out. So yes, there are.
Seems like something we need to continue to evaluate.
I
the
agree.
way we would evaluate any project, potential project, opportunity, whatever, however you want to categorize it, it seems like something we should look at further.
Well, I'm seeing it that scored a 32 and a 40 on our graphs. That's pretty high already.
Yeah,
Right.
And an 80-foot erodible area, I mean, to me, that's,
We could get better than somebody else.
yeah.
Yeah, I guess what I'm really looking for is, would you like me to continue that so I can get that information, so I can bring it back to the board and you can say, yes, these are the actual cost benefit of pursuing this, moving on to that.
Are you looking for a motion or are you just looking for a consensus?
So it's like.
All right. Bonnie, are you a yes or a no?
I don't know.
Can I make a
There is
comment?
no obligation.
Yeah.
No, we just need to,
Yeah.
we need to do the discovery in order to be able to even say it is this.
I would
Now,
say
what are
that
you?
I would be in
Yes.
favor,
I'm a yes.
I'm a definite, yeah.
Okay. Leslie, are you a yes or a no on this?
not for purchasing it, but if we can find
Can't
another
hear you.
way. to
Can't hear
get
you.
easement,
I,
Type it, please. We're sorry.
I can read what she said in the caption.
No, I'm not seeing anything.
no, he's got time caption.
Oh. There we go. Says. For purchase. Easements, maybe.
Yeah,
Okay, so we're not saying we'd be purchasing it now. We're saying that we're just gonna do more discovery to find out what it would cost and how we would go about doing this. So basically, he's just asking, should we proceed with more discovery
To engage with the dilemma.
to talk to them about what this would involve and how we would do this?
so how would this be any different from any other situation that comes up?
Manager Poston, or President Post Manager, well, if we, liken it to, for instance, the Upper Riley project, we're just looking for right of entry on those properties. In this case, we'd be assuming ownership of.
Okay, so Leslie, back to you again. I just have not for purchase easements, maybe. We're not looking to purchase it right now. We're just looking to find out more about what it would cost and what's involved in it. Would you be okay with that?
Or another scenario.
New messages.
Dedicated.
She said yes.
Okay,
It's not going to automatically scroll.
thank you.
It says,
Some other things to think about, so this is the culvert, 72-inch 48 metal pipe, the way our rules are set up, they can replace it exactly as is. And that is what they would do, because the cost of upsizing it and designing it for this path would be prohibitive for any private entity. This is looking downstream at the more eroded section, the 32 section. This is the upstream side where you can see the channels more stabilized, gradually slope down to it. I think my recommendation is that we'd be missing out on it right now.
Okay, so we have a consensus to move forward, so you've got some direction there.
All right.
There you go. Okay, I think we're on to the next item, University of Minnesota presentation on Spring Road. Lucky us, we have some very devoted, wonderful people with us today. Like to do anything else to introduce them for us, Terry?
Well, President Post Manager, we've been working with Margaret Dano and Manager Crafton, put us together over a year ago now, 18 months ago now. Started out as Mr. Shaw had a class and there were 5, I believe, students that presented restoration plans. Margaret's clearly rose to the top. He was even the one willing to come back and say, one of the two. Either way, she's been working closely with Zach Dickhausen and myself, Mr. Shaw, and has made a lot of visions, a lot of planning for very little reward. And I really appreciate what she's done. It is our first step. This was the reason we appointed the property primarily was for restoration, for something like quality, research, for educational purposes. So with that, I guess I would just turn it over to Margaret and Dan to discuss.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I don't know if I want to get my screen all set up here first.
And all of you should have.
Yes, we all do.
And it's also available on the website.
Let's go. Okay. Well, thank you so much for having us back here. I think the last time we came here was the summer, June. Yeah, who knows how long it's been, but yeah, I wanted to thank you all for having us present here tonight, and really grateful for the opportunity. My name's Margaret Milligan. I'm a student in the Masters of Landscape Architecture program at the university, getting minors in ecological restoration and integrative health and healing practices, and I will be graduating in May, fingers crossed. And I'll let Dan introduce.
I'm Dan Shaw. So I teach at the University of Minnesota and then work at the Minnesota Board of Water and Soil Resources. So Margaret and I have been working together, I guess, for over a year now.
Yeah, and lots of gratitude to Dan for helping guide this project and really be a partner in this plan. So yeah. And last time I was here, I had only done a portion of the site. It was the kind of creek meadow low-lying area in the kind of the front of the site adjacent to Spring Road, and then the remnant. And this time we're going to be talking about the whole site. So we've looked at it all and kind of put together a conceptual plan for restoration for this site. Just a couple of notes, like this is a conceptual plan. It does not include cost estimates. It does not include super detailed sequences of restoration events. Like I've included sample sequences that run from like 3 to 4 years, but you know, when you develop a detailed plan, you'll probably be wanting to be looking out, you know, like 7 or 8 years for restoration sequences. So this is kind of like a foundation that can be used however you guys see fit for future conversations with partners, because I have a feeling that it will be of great benefit to this project to have a lot of other voices in the mix while developing a really robust plan. So this is kind of a first go. I don't know if happening, but
Yeah, I think this is providing the foundation for the site. It's been great working with staff on this, and you know, we've had input from Leslie and others as well. So I think we're off to a good start. This is conceptual at this point, and so the next step will be getting into more detail with the plan. But it's great that you've all gotten to the site to the point it's at now where it can be restored. And we're just excited about being able to be involved in this site. We think it's a really important site because of the remnant, the location, the connection to other intact habitats that are nearby. So there's just so many reasons that this is a important site. It seems like there's a lot of conservation partners that know about the site and are interested in collaborating in some way. So we're happy to be involved.
Yeah, so, Dan, Margaret, Isaac, met with, staff in Eden Prairie. Not quite that long ago. They're very excited about it. They've invited us. They do, annual seed, harvesting on their site. They've invited us to participate in that. So, yeah, it's a great opportunity for collaboration as well.
And I don't know if you guys want to stop us like with questions or comments during the presentation, or we can just kind of roll through it and questions at the end. It's really up to how you guys are feeling. What do you?
I think I'll let her chat.
Quick question, I'm sure.
Yeah, please, please.
Otherwise-
Something can't wait.
Okay. And I will try to, there's a lot to cover because even though it's, it's around a 30-acre site, like it is kind of complex in some ways. But we'll try to, keep it fairly short. And these are what we're thinking about. These are the goals and the outcomes that we're thinking about when we're starting this planning project for the site. And it's really taking in consideration like the watershed district's goals, what the site could handle or sustain. And so the goals are really related to the, the protection of the rare habitat and the species that are present there. It's really transforming the site from parts of it are fairly diverse, but quite a bit of it has low diversity. So transforming that to like a high diversity site in terms of plants. And then hopefully by doing these restoration strategies and practices, it will help with, water infiltration, water quality through the, stabilization of the soil and all of that. And then we're looking always to control the invasive species on the site so that they don't spread any further, and then expand habitat. And then the outcomes are just a little bit more specific, I guess, but very tied to the goals. And for the strategy, we've divided, the site has like incredible diversity in the topographic sense and like vegetation, like there's a lot going on the site. So we really needed to divide it into several management zones because they're so unique. So that's what we've done. And we've focused most of the restoration techniques on fire, on seeding with locally sourced native plant material, and on controlling invasive species like leafy spurge, buckthorn. There's some other ones that you could throw in there too, and we can talk about those later. And then this plan is really long-term. A plan for the site should be like long-term and should be adaptive to what you see happening on the site once you've implemented some of these things. So there's got to be room to pivot and to make changes because, like, for example, there's a lot of wooded areas on the site. Some of them might respond better to one strategy. Some of them might respond better to another. Some areas might maybe want to become an oak savanna, while others might want to become more of a woodland, big woods species mix. So it's just a long, slow process of noticing what the site is telling us through management. And we're also keeping in mind just the site sensitivity, not only in terms of, soil composition and fragile ecosystems like the remnant prairies, but it's also a very public site with a lot of people who are invested in it. And for that reason, many of our strategies are non or low chemical restoration strategies, but that also, is kind of dependent on the area that we're talking about, or what we find in adaptive management. I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
Yeah, I think that's where, partners come in and a lot of discussion around these topics and, like the brome areas, there's extensive brome areas there. So there's more and more information now about burning to try to convert that over versus herbicide use. So I think, that would be a focus of using those natural methods wherever we can, with the spring being down below. That's definitely a consideration related to herbicide use. But there could be some areas further back where could consider chemical use, but that's all part of the discussion with everybody on this site. It's the usual approach for these projects. We get teams together, we talk through approaches for restoration.
Well, with that, we can go to the begin with the brome fields, and that's about 16 acres. And the area is highlighted. There are some islands of trees, the big kind of hardwood island in the over to the west, and then the band of mature pines, but this is kind of what we're talking about. And for the brome fields, our strategy is really to, remove the Christmas trees and, get the site, that zone ready to be burned, because the management strategy that we focused on is pretty intense burns, maybe yearly, maybe once every 2 years, to set the brome back. So to disturb it or stress it out, and this would be in the spring, early summer, and then interseed into the burned brome fields with seed mixes, and some of the seed mixes are linked in this present or in the packet. So that's the overall goal, is to slowly transition this from brome to a diverse dry prairie, using hopefully some local seed sources. And so yeah, we'd need to remove the Christmas trees. We'd need to establish a burn break around the unit. So that means getting woody debris or fallen logs away from the perimeter, maybe mowing the perimeter, and establishing burn breaks around the kind of island of mature trees in it. And yeah, you would be doing that for several years, many years.
Yeah, several years,
Several
and
years.
then we talked about seed rains, like multiple seed rains, so that would be part of it too. Collecting seed,
Yeah,
potentially purchasing seed too. We'd like to use as much local ecotype seed as possible, and so that's part of the next step, is figuring out how much seed do we need, can we collect it on the conservation area, doing more assessment of that, and getting into more detail on the species that we really want to see out.
yeah. And I feel like this area in particular could be thought of as an extension. I mean, the whole site kind of as an extension of the Prairie Bluffs Conservation Area. And, we've talked a lot about that is a remnant area, and it's also very rare. And we don't want to mess with a lot of the genetics on that site in terms of seeds and plants. So we had discussed a kind of a buffer area to the south, adjacent to Prairie Bluffs, that that would be where we would use the seed collected from Prairie Bluffs to reseed that area. And then we'd use a purchased seed mix for more of the interior portions. And then
If
another,
needed.
yeah, and then another buffer around the remnant up to the north. So that makes sense.
Yeah, to set expectations, the site that Prairie Bluff Conservation Area started with a better plant composition than what we're starting with, and they've been at it for, let's say, 5 years now, 6 years. So, you know, I mean, I think everybody here is aware we're not gonna have this new prairie in 3 years. It's gonna be a long-term labor of love.
That's the way nature works. I mean, it takes at least 3 years.
Yeah.
It'll be a decade of time.
That's what just need to be taken.
And these areas have some holes out there which need to be addressed, and there will be stumps.
Yeah, this
That'll be a bit of a challenge with the Christmas trees. Spruce stumps degrade a little bit slower than like balsam fir and some others, so
yeah.
probably just trying to cut them a blow to the ground as we can to minimize them being in the way.
Yeah, and a lot of our thoughts on this area as well, it's like so very steep there is like really trying to minimize any risk of erosion. So like, for instance, a lot of times in prairie restorations, you would use an excavator to dig out stumps, or you'd tie them to a chain and dig out.
Scott's volunteered to hand show them all.
Oh, excellent.
What horses?
Well, that's another topic, but we did have conversations even, you know, here in the south, we talked about, and I think you've got a little bit on the use of animals and part of this, not necessarily the stuff removal, but. Volunteered to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, and then another option with the stumps is, I think this is in the plan, but just to leave them, like cut them as close to the ground and to leave them to decompose. So you're really not, disturbing that soil at all. But I'm interested about the animals in the stumps. Anything else about the brome fields?
Any questions?
Yeah.
Anybody has?
Like they back in there.
Mhm.
So we gotta do it.
Yeah, I mean, maybe a little bit on the difficulties of, you know, the planting in the ground and getting it to establish a different vegetative cover to set expectations of that. If there's anything you want to add on that, I think that might be good for managers to hear.
Yeah, there's been partners working on brome conversion with fire, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, prairie enthusiasts. So there's more and more information building on that topic. And it's just kind of how the restoration field works. We keep learning from each other on practices that are working, and there's some unique challenges here with the kittails and some other things that are happening. So it will be a phased approach. It won't be an automatic thing, but I think, you know, that's how we're looking at trees and things on this site too, that many of them could be phased out over time. But this doesn't have to happen within like 3 years. Sometimes we rush restoration projects and then we regret it because, you know, we try to do everything and then things bounce back. So I think having that expectation that this will be something that happens over time is important. That'll be the case with the brome grass. It'll take some time, but the more native grasses and other things that can increase the fire intensity on that slope will help and start tying up some of the nutrients and just outcompeting that brome grass over time. So I think there's some research opportunities with this too. And I will be talking to some other colleagues at the university that might be interested in doing some research out here on some of these restoration techniques that, you know, a lot of cases, the information like on repeated burning for brome conversion is not well documented in science. It's something that practitioners have information about. So I think it'd be great if we can see if there's some opportunities to get some researchers involved.
Actually, we could segue into two. Art started out with saying that this is kind of a roadmap, not a detailed plan. In a way, as we get more to what we're gonna be bidding, we'll talk about it more, but I think that's almost a better approach to this, is we set some specific, we want high forms, we want free grass, we want this. That's when we get in trouble, and we lose the opportunity to work with your partners to try and help us everything. Almost like a design build approach to.
I'm very supportive of the concept of having research opportunities, because that was a big part of why. So the speed of restoration feels less important than the learning from it and the opportunities for people to use the property.
So the fact that it was a Christmas tree farm, did that particular crop, did that taint the soil? In terms of, just from go up north and you see the green trees and the ground is very acidic, and so nothing grows. Does that undo issue to deal with, or?
Acidity takes a long time to change, so I don't think the acidity would be much different. It's possible they're using some herbicides around the trees to suppress the grass. That's pretty common in Christmas tree farms. So there's possibility of some residue from that.
But there is a less covered crop on the ground, so it's.
Yeah.
Their stuff's growing now.
Yeah, yeah, I think everything is doing fine, you know, and the vegetation will be planting will be fine. So I don't anticipate that, like, what was there will cause big issues other than the stumps and the things that are in the way.
Stumps and holes.
And it's deep flush there, so it's pretty basic to begin with.
Mhm.
We'll have to change a lot, you know. So it's going to be exciting part of that.
Remnant prairie.
Okay, yeah, the remnant prairie, and we kind of covered this a little bit from the time that I was here last time, but it really is like, well, I guess first I just wanted to ask you guys, I've been doing more research into the site and like listening to city council meetings from many years ago and trying to find out as much as I can about the site. But I was initially under the impression that there was just a remnant up here in the north area of the site, because that's where we saw, like, we've seen like the plant species that would indicate that that's the remnant. But is there a remnant down here as well?
That's the wetland area there is. I would have to go back and look again at the. I'd have to go back and look at the original part. I remember primarily being to the north.
Yeah.
Where the area line down there is the wetland. There was.
It's actually up on top of the hill.
That's where there was.
Oops. Okay. Okay.
Out of that.
So that's maybe right next to the prairie conservation
Yeah, it's
area.
like adjacent.
And getting invaded by buckthorn right now, I think.
Yeah.
Oh.
There's a lot of cedar. I don't know why my.
There's a lot of cedar in there too.
I
yeah.
apologize for it.
It may well be. I know that they were not going to develop that area, so they maybe just didn't really give it much consideration in their development planning.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I don't mean to like throw a wrench into things, but that I just want to make people aware that like that might also be not sure what's happening with my computer. So sorry. That might be an additional area because it does have red cedar, eastern red cedar trees and prairie grasses underneath it. And that's kind of the same thing that we found in the north with the kittentails growing under it. So you might want to check out that area. But yeah, the remnant is just basically burning it in a manner that is beneficial to the kittentails. That's going to be in the early spring or late fall, and managing that as a separate unit from the brome conversion fields, while you're also selectively collecting seed off of it, reseeding it, and managing some of the cedar trees there. Like, again, the cedar trees are where the kitten tails are growing under, so you don't want to remove them all. And you'll have to be really selective about that. But yeah, let me think.
Yeah, and we talked to Carrie about that from Eden Prairie, and it sounds like they've done some removal of cedars and it's been okay for the cattails. I think we just want to be cautious, like maybe this would be phased out too. That we remove some cedars where there's cattails underneath, see how they do. And then if that goes fine, we remove more cedars, but there's like pockets of cattails right underneath the cedars, right around the stem. So raises the question to us, like, maybe it likes it there, so.
They seem to like it there.
But we don't want the cedars continuing to spread on the site either, because then it becomes a long-term maintenance issue.
Yeah. And it's like there are some aspens growing on that northeastern edge of it, and that's part of the, mowing those yearly could be a way to stop that encroachment there.
And maybe girdling those larger aspen trees, because the girdling, if that's done well, it suppresses the suffering. So that might be the approach with the aspen.
But I mean, there's a really exciting like couple of acres on this site. Like the plants there are really neat, and
There's the rhombic evening primrose, which is another state listed species. We saw some leaves of a primrose. We weren't sure if it was that one or not. It was just the basal leaf, but that may be still present on the site too.
thing about the remnant. Okay, the wooded areas. The wooded areas. There's, they occupy about half of the site in total. And there's a huge diversity of what's going on. I would say the constants are buckthorn. And so that is like where we focused our energy with buckthorn removal. And like our strategy, and this is just one sequence that you could use, but we focused on bringing in goats to some places, and hand removal, and potentially forestry mowing removal. So like basically everything that you could do to get rid of buckthorn, you could do it on the site. And like they would be appropriate on different levels on the site. So on a steep slope, you might not want one thing versus another. So it really depends on the site that we're talking with about for buckthorn removal. But yeah.
The CAC, they may be interested.
So I don't see the cut and daub. Is that because you're trying to find just no chemical? That feels like a pretty minor amount of chemical. I don't know if you talked through that or not.
Yeah, we have, and I think we're open to that, particularly on that more, is that northern portion, where it's like much further away from the spring. That area is a tricky area because it's a real mix of things. There's, it probably was savanna at one point. There's been a lot of tree establishment in there. So it's going to be a question like, what trees do we keep there? And then there's garlic mustard, there's buckthorn, there's other invasives in there. And it seems like that would be a good area for forestry mowing. There are a lot of partners working on these kinds of areas now, trying different combinations of things. We're emailing a colleague who's working in Woodbury on some oak forests today. And I've been collecting sequences from some of these people working on these. Burnsville has done some interesting work with savannas. And so forestry mowing probably would be a good option for that area, but probably some herbicide application would be helpful in that area. Like repeated forestry mowing is being done and then goats are being used. Cover mixes are pretty common now too, like cool season grass dominated mixes that can suppress buckthorn regrowth. And so those would be the things that we'd be trying in different areas. The one area closest to the house, that woods, has like a flatter area, but then it goes uphill quickly. So that area is going to be different because I don't think we can get a forestry mower on there. Those are just the details we haven't gotten to yet here that will need to get worked out of exactly what equipment, what sequences for each area. We got pretty far along on some of it, but that needs to get further along. But yeah, the herbicide, that area seems like it's an area where it would be more acceptable potentially to use herbicide.
So there's a lot that could happen. There's a lot that could happen, and it's kind
There's
of
always a lot of ways to do
a
things.
grab bag of what and where.
Overlay management.
Yeah.
And how many people you could wrangle into buckthorn management, which I mean, like, there's,
And you get the cotton dog crows, they're out there.
yeah, I'd be interested to see, like, I know around the spring on the city of Eden Prairie's property there, like their Friends of Eden Prairie Parks has been doing quite a bit of removal using the critical cutting protocol, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that turns out. Yeah, and I guess these were all the things that we were talking about. Either all the options. Well, not all the options. I mean, there's a lot of innovation out there, but these are the most commonly practiced options that I'm sure will show up on the site in some fashion. And it's all about, I just always have to remind myself why we are putting so much energy to buckthorn removal. And it's because, to me, it's, we went out hiking on the site to do a plant survey, and like you get into the buckthorn area and there's nothing there's bare ground, there's bare soil underneath your feet. And that to me is the problem that we're trying to solve, or the situation that we're trying to help along. So anything else?
Oh, I like that slide though. It's kind of captures all the many options that have been used.
Yeah. And the visual buffer, we kind of identified this as a different management zone than like the wooded areas, because it's just, I guess we didn't, it's along the road and along the development to the east there. And we didn't want like forestry mowing or complete vegetation clearing to happen along the visual buffer in like a very fast way, because I think everyone appreciates the visual buffer or the buffer. And so here we're like thinking about transitioning it slowly from a kind of a buckthorn dominated strip to more native shrub species, and doing that in like a hand removal way, probably focusing on female buckthorn shrubs, trees first, removing them, replacing them with, there's a variety of native shrubs that they could be replaced with, including elderberries, which I think there's some research that's being done with that.
Suppress seedling regrowth, yeah.
Using them to suppress the buckthorn seedlings, and then like sowing a buckthorn cover seed mix that's been developed by, I think, a researcher at the university to like really keep them at bay. So yeah, that's kind of the the strategy with the visual buffer, eventual transition. So once you identify and take out the female buckthorns, then you can move on to the males and eventually transition. And that'd be a very rewarding job for volunteer groups who can like take out the buckthorn and then immediately put in something new or sow seeds right where they've been working. So
So the Friends of Edinburgh Park have already offered to help out with that. So we've got a little bit of PhD members that would be, I think, that would be wonderful. So I think finding the labor will be,
Not a problem.
yeah. it can be done.
I think I'm looking for something.
Yeah.
The world better.
Yeah, the prairie enthusiasts have expressed interest in the prairie as well. They see this as a really important prairie restoration, so they're interested in getting involved.
I like the idea personally, if there's a plan, a vision that you could sort of see it throughout time and then you could participate, that's could be very inspiring for people. Instead of just, we're doing buckthorn removal today and it doesn't really go anywhere. So I like that there's a vision. I think
Yeah.
that should really
But it
move
moves out,
people.
you put, in that spot or.
yeah, that we'd remove it and then put natives in. Maybe not in the exact spot,
Well,
but yeah.
soon.
Yeah.
That's what we figured talked about when we talked about the challenges and the remnants of it.
Yeah, I think we'd want to try to recreate canopy pretty quickly to suppress the buckthorn regrowth. Things like prairie plum would do really well, I think. Any of those native shrubs.
Yeah.
And then that's a lot of benefit for pollinators too, if we get a lot of those shrub species growing.
So that's kind of how nature does it in the shrubs from.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be cool.
So how does this relate, the techniques you're talking about now, how does it relate to what the cities are doing on their own, like Minnetonka and Eden Prairie? I live right near Eden Brook Conservation Area, and there's a big section in the south part of that area that was all buckthorn and that's been taken out. They just cut it out and just cut it out, cut it out and cut it out, or is it?
Yeah, that's where some of the buckthorn cover mixes are pretty successful now. So the university has been testing those mixes. We're creating one with our agency for like a state mix. But then they also did research on shrubs. So they're finding that dense shrub replanting does the same thing. It'll suppress that regrowth. But if you don't do anything, just cut buckthorn, you'll be back in every 2 or 3 years doing the same thing. So that's where here, we're hoping to have a sequence in place that's going to allow for suppressing those seedlings and that regrowth, and that's going to want to come in. It's just, it takes an intensive approach.
But the cities, they haven't necessarily done anything other than just to cut it down.
Yeah. And it isn't that hard these days because of the forestry mowers. The forestry mowers can go through pretty easily and clear things out. And maybe they will come back, like some sites now, they're bringing forestry mowers in twice within the same year. Clear it out, let it regrow, clear it out, and then come in and start using the cover mixes. And that's what the person we were communicating today was planning for one of their sites. To kind of go in twice with those forestry mowers. But those things are pretty amazing what they can do for just clearing things. But they can create a bigger problem if nothing else happens there. Yeah, I think Bloomington has a good track record of restoring that.
All right, the pine stand, we kind of separated this out because it is a little different than some of the others, and just in that there's so many of one type of tree there. But it's about 2 acres right over onto the southeast side. But it's very similar to the strategies of the other wooded areas, but just, you know, increasing the understory plant diversity. Buckthorn is not as bad there as it is on the northern and southwestern side of the site. So it's, what we're thinking here is like really creating something a little bit more diverse in the understory and controlling some of the invasive honeysuckle and a little bit of buckthorn under there. And yeah, that's pretty much just hand pulling and digging.
So Pedersen matters going to interrupt, so I just went back and looked at, it's not public information, I fired there, yes, that portion in the southwest has, different fields.
Okay.
Oh,
So
okay.
in July and six,
Wow. Okay.
Have to look this year.
in 2021.
There's supposed to be bumblebee.
Well, yeah, it's habitat that haven't been documented there. I mean, Bark sparrow is also actually present there as well.
Just one note on the pine stand. We see some value there being a visual screen up there too, along the residences that are there. I mean, it might create concern for them if there was a lot of clearing along there. We focus on buckthorn along that stretch. There are some nice big bur oak trees along that edge. But we probably would be looking at planting some shrubs along that edge too, just to build up maybe a little bit more visual barrier. I think for like educational uses of the site, it'll be maybe a better experience being in there if there is visual barriers from those residences and the road, just from an experience.
The other part of it is to limit better access from everywhere, the site of it is, it's a bit of a traffic area. And go by the back door of the house.
Yeah.
And when we burn. So,
Yeah. The Creek Meadow, I'm not gonna spend a lot of time here, even though it is a fascinating 1 acre. But yeah, initially we were thinking, you know, the fire retention feature and a 4-bay would be good here. I don't know if that will work with like the water table there. Don't know. I think that's a question for the engineers of what to do with the piped water that's going into the creek.
yeah.
So-
The north apex, not quite the north apex, it's called, but that goes under the
Yeah,
Spring Road and things.
but I will be excited to see what you guys come up with here. The house and drive, we don't have to spend a lot of time on this, because it seems like this will be way in the future, if at all, but you know, there could be some really cool designs, you know, that are showcasing the more residential scale water quality efforts that people could do at their own homes or businesses, if that site is developed as like a interpretive center. But that's just kind of yeah, it would be very, very cool. I think there could be a lot of educational opportunities on that site, to connect people not only with like the surface water, but also the groundwater.
Were those our
flows.
cedar benches there that were?
Yeah. Well, that, I don't know if that's the next slide, but I do think, yeah, the woody, you know, thinking about restoration, you're gonna have like so much material, so much material that you've killed, basically, you know, like the buckthorn that you've taken out, the trees that you have removed, in order for there to be a good burn or for whatever reason, there's gonna be a lot of,
That's the biochar.
yeah, a lot of materials that, you know, you would have to haul off the site or pile up somewhere and forget about them for 40 years, but there's a lot of use that you could gain from these materials. And so I've tried to illustrate some of them, like the buckthorn could be going to biochar, and that could be spread on the site, or other conservation sites, or, be given to the public as a giveaway or charge or whatever you want to do. But I know the city of Eden Prairie has a
They have offered use of their.
kiln. Yeah. There's like a lot of nice community events that can happen around that. Not only the buckthorn removal, but then you get to roast marshmallows over the over the buckthorn biochar kiln fire. It can also be like used as habitat elements, and there's habitat piles that are constructed in certain ways. The conifer, the Christmas trees can also be, you could further your holiday tree giveaway if that is of interest. But those trees could also be used for biochar or habitat elements. And then there's some like very mature pine trees in the brome field, and those could, you could look at having those build into site elements. And I think honestly, I think it would be a very nice way to complete that cycle on the site.
So, one of the biochar, agricultural settings have used biochar a lot, filtration, water quality, right? And so that can I have discussed if you can't spend time facility working with it, if you want to use it as a demonstration facility, try different means and see if you get. So I think there are other applications of biochar. Soil members.
I think a lot of it was like for the presentation.
Yeah. So yeah, so I think there's other opportunities as well for that biochar. If you'd like to use it.
I think this is the final slide, and it's just about the next steps, which really fall into the planning side, and then the kind of in the field next steps, what you could do now to take those next few steps. The planning side is just focused on having conversations with those partners and getting some clarity on project management, and who is leading, who's contributing, who wants to have a voice in this like site development, and that includes conversations with your partners. You guys could probably bring in a lot of really knowledgeable, wonderful partners on this, at the city, at the county, different organizations. I don't know.
Well, Leslie, you thinking on that? Yes, just thinking staff and that's great.
So, Zach has already begun discussion with Christine Mauer at Hennepin County about the grant that they have available, and working with them, that's just plans while they were involved heavily on the Spring Road, on the Prairie Bluff Conservation Area, but still are involved in it and doing some other work. I want to say northeast of that site. So yeah, that conversation already begun. We've already engaged in the Prairie on it. And I've mentioned some other opportunities that are out there. And obviously, we have wealth of information and local knowledge on the CDC. So, see what we get with this.
I'm excited.
Yeah, I think one other note with the with the plan, there's a lot of different like levels of detail in plan. But sometimes it depends on like if a project's being bid out versus if you have more control over crews or volunteers coming in, maybe you don't need as much detail. So we'll be figuring that out as we move ahead, like how much more detail than we have now do we need? Anything that would be bid out, we probably would want, more of it being like a specification, maybe some performance standards in there for the contractors that are coming in. I do a lot of that with the state with our wetland banking projects, working with contractors, and we've kind of learned we need performance standards in there of what's the end result of the work they're doing. So those are things we can advise on as this progresses and we work this out more, some of the details of what we need as the next step of the plan. Yeah, I think we've learned a lot over the years doing budgets.
And just in the, I know I'm a person who just like wants to get out and like do something. So sometimes this planning stuff is hard for me. But from spending time with this project, it does seem like things that could potentially happen in the field now without waiting on that really, really detailed plan would be, of course, like more GIS mapping. Whoever is skilled and loves that could, tree locations could be mapped, buckthorn locations could be mapped, boundaries could be mapped. I don't know if you guys have done a professional site survey, but that might be of use.
Yeah, so we will need to get an RLS though to do the actual boundary survey, because we're gonna want to replat it at some point. We'll find different engineering firm that's got more than one survey.
And then, of course, there's always the woody, invasive and Christmas tree removal. I think that could happen. That could happen at any time as long as there's a plan of what are you going to do with the stuff? What are you going to do to prevent it from resprouting in the case of, honeysuckle or buckthorn or whatever. But, and then there's just there's just some random debris and stuff around the site that if somebody wanted to do that, they could. But
Several loads of fill brought in place in that large parking area by the barn. So it's the time to do it in the culture and and
The swimming pool hole. They can go in the hole with clean fill.
exactly. I'm afraid of it. Other things we've started, Austin and started discussions with the DNR about supplying trees for the shore, things that might be out there. So I think there's a lot of things we can do beyond just plant over. I just saw a grant with community organic collection. Do that on the side, so there's some.
I think the more the work that it can be documented, the better, just because I think we find with these projects, we get 3 years in and we're like, oh, shoot, we didn't take pictures of this or that, or people doing these things. And it just tells a story. And I'm sure you'll be presenting this project somewhere. So the more pictures you can take documenting what happened, that's going to be really helpful.
So
You got to find the time.
Sounds like a good Minnesota water stewards project.
So just so I am clear, how much involvement do you want to have in going forward with this project? I don't know whether or not you had some communication there. I'm not up on it.
It's bothered.
I mean,
I was gonna wait for her to get to May.
what I'm seeing is that you've done an incredible amount of work for us. And we're very appreciative of what's here. I mean, really, to even have walked the site and know the plant materials that are in and think about the specific areas that are going to be part of that project. It's an incredible gift that you've given to us. And I can't tell you how much gratitude I have to know that we have it in the hands of people who understand what needs to be done before we undertake, because it's a 30-acre big project and we just don't have the staffing at this point to be able to do this. So my next question is, how much do you want to do? How much can you do?
Well, we're both, very interested in the site and engaged in the project. So I think, we're both interested in staying involved as much as we can along the way. I think my interest has maybe been more mentoring along the way, and Zach is learning this too. So that's been part of my interest, and I think the more Margaret can stay involved, I think that would be great. And it's been a great learning opportunity for her as well. So I've appreciated that. That's been part of the process. So I think we're meeting maybe in a week or two to kind of talk through the details a bit more, kind of where we're at.
Well, I just want to say on behalf of us, we're extremely filled with gratitude for what's been there and the possibilities. Yeah. As I'm looking through this, I see it's a place that you could visit that would inspire people, that it's a place to see change in nature happen over time. So, you can sort of go back in a couple of years and see, oh, look, this is what's happened when nature gets the opportunity to do this, to restore itself. I just kind of see it as a model of what you can do, and the fact that there are so many different types of sort of sub-micro systems in there. There's the big woods, and then there's the pines up here, and then there's the Rome converted. I mean, you could go to one place and learn an incredible amount and have a showcase for that.
Yeah.
So it's just
Yep.
really a inspiring place, I think, for people in general that live close to it.
Yeah.
So I'm just terribly excited. So if you, yes, in fact, have the time and can mentor this thing along, we are extremely appreciative of what you can do. So thank you.
Any possibilities at all with additional research? Other students with the university going forward to follow through on specific?
Yeah, I think there is definitely opportunities to get other students involved that are interested in different research topics. One of Margaret's classmates was experimenting a lot with reuse of woody material for erosion control. So those kinds of things are, there's just a lot of innovation, people thinking about that. So I think, if we can bring students in to learn from this site, I think that would be great.
And I just wanted to thank you all for your time. And I think you're right. I think the site is gets people excited, there's a lot of passion around that particular site. So I think you should try to harness that as best that you can. And also just an immense amount of gratitude to Dan for his mentorship in this project. I really appreciate it.
I mean, I kind of see in a world of us harming almost everything we touch. But it's such a wonderful thing to be able to say, we have taken something and lovingly, with care, forethought, and with nature's help, developed it back to maybe partially what it was, or maybe better. So I just super excited.
Yeah, it's very
Yes.
life affirming work during
Yeah.
that, which we need. So, yeah.
So I got to.
Mhm.
And they did the presentations. And Margaret's just really stuck me because of the appreciation for the uniqueness and the different ecosystem and bio and things that are there and how she wanted to protect them. You know, it's just so, I appreciate all that you brought to that. I want to see you continue.
Yeah, and I think this plan, the plan is unique because it is very graphical, which I think for working with the public and partners, it's really helpful to kind of have that vision of what it can look like. So I think that's a real strength of this plan. We find these plans are really important for applying for grants too. Once you have a good starting point in place, grantees will see that, okay, yeah, there's a concept here of how this is gonna work.
So thank you.
Yeah.
Again, very much.
It's like-
I might suggest we grab my deed and then Bill will begin on the steering committee stuff, or do you want to just hold on to the regular meeting?
Up to you. I think I'm gonna try just
Okay.
reading everything.
Just play AV.
Yes, so
Okay.
if that happens to work and come back, that'd be great.
Yes, yes. Yeah, I mentioned. Okay, yeah, I mentioned Burnsville because I know, he had done a lot of. Focus on that work, and I